Right now, Meta is scrambling to take their AI accounts off of their platforms after some information was shared in a Financial Times interview. And people are understandably really frustrated with Meta's approach to these AI personas. I think we should talk about it. Connor Hayes is the vice president of product for generative AI at Meta, and he was recently quoted in a Financial Times interview on December 26th talking about Meta's long-term plan for their AI personas. He said, quote, "We expect these AIs to actually, over time, exist on our platforms, kind of in the same way that accounts do. They'll have bios and profile pictures and be able to generate and share content powered by AI on the platform. That's where we see all of this going." He went on to say that this is a long-term priority for Meta. And after this interview, people basically went online and found these AI personas, and people were really outraged for a couple of reasons. The first one is that for a lot of people, this was the first time that they were hearing about any of these AI personas on the Meta platforms, so they felt a little bit blindsided. Second of all, people really felt like these accounts and these profiles, the pictures, the bios, the way that these accounts were speaking were pretty biased, and they felt like fake personas of people that are really AI didn't need to be put out into the world. Now, to Meta's credit, they did indicate that these were AI accounts, but they didn't go into a ton of detail beyond the label on these accounts. The third thing that people are really frustrated about and nervous about, understandably so, is mis and disinformation. We've been trying to figure out ways to combat misinformation and disinformation for a long time. And I think people are beginning to kind of ask the question, if it's bad for bad actors from another country to create a bunch of accounts that have very specific perspectives or opinions and flood these platforms with those, why isn't it bad for Meta to do the same thing? And I think that that's a very reasonable question. Now, there are some nuances in those two different cases, but I do think that it's a really reasonable question, and people are concerned about these AI accounts not being monitored or getting out of control and spreading lies or misinformation. And that's something that they already found when they went on and looked at these Meta personas. They basically found that they were able to engage with these Meta personas and they were able to catch them in lies spreading misinformation. Another reason why people are really frustrated by this is that they feel like there is a huge risk of people getting emotionally attached to these personas, either the personas that Meta creates or the personas that they allow other people to create. AI personas are not the same as like creating a Sims character or being a kid and having a doll that you play with. It's just not the same thing, because in those two situations, you have a lot of control over what the character does or how you create the narrative around that plaything. But with AI, it has the ability to operate on its own, and there's a lot of the narrative that you don't necessarily get to control. That creates a more risky environment for people to create that emotional attachment. So for me personally, I think that this is a big red flag for Meta. They are definitely doing this to try to find a way to capture the younger market as they move forward in this competitive AI landscape. This is something that they're doing to directly compete with Character AI, which is not owned by Google, but is invested in heavily by Google. Character AI is a really interesting case to look at right now, and I'm not sure that people want to be grasping to be Character AI, because ultimately the app, while it is very popular, there are a number of lawsuits against them right now, and a lot of different families who are alleging that their children have come to harm and even have unalived themselves because they were in a emotional relationship with one of these AI personas that they were able to create on the app. Definitely a really complicated, risky situation, and I think that Meta is maybe getting out a little bit over their skis right now in trying to make sure that they can capture the market in the future and not really considering safety right now. This is one of those situations where I wish one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the most well-known companies in the world, would do better.